All right. Salakia, give me 1 second. All right. Let's get into it. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Yachak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And in this lesson, all right, dealing with the sons of God, okay, the fallen ones, so to speak. And I was meditating upon it as I was trying to put the lesson together. And certain precepts kept coming to mind, so I put a few together, here and there, and Lord's willing to be an edifying lesson, because we know that one of the big myths is that in the scriptures pertaining to the sons of God, or the fallen ones, one of those Christianity or Christian uh, mythology is that they are the angels, Satan and his angels, and so on and so forth, that fell, and all manner of things, right? But we know that the sons of God, okay, where are the sons of God? Really, they're here on the earth today, okay? Which later on they went on to be known as the children of Israel. Okay, but the sons of God, that was pretty much the nation of Israel without being called Israelites. Okay, going under the term sons of God. All right. Now, as I was meditating upon this, I thought about it as to how it's spiritual, because when you look at it, the sons of God, starting really, with Adam, from his line on down, all right, through Seth, okay, not through Cain, but through Seth, we know that Adam was Yahweh Shai. So the sons of God, or the fallen ones, which was us, we fell, but starting with who? With Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai led the fall, all right, of the sons of God, and Yahweh Shai led the rise again of the sons of God, because of Adam's transgression, as we're about to read. Let's actually go to it in the book of Romans, the 5th chapter. Adam, that first Adam, was Yahushai, and through his transgression, because, and when I say transgression, I mean going off, breaking of the commandment of the Lord, because back then, which some people don't know, but back then, at the time of Adam, they had the law, statutes, and commandments. It wasn't written down, but they had the knowledge of the law, statutes, and commandments, because it was given to them, to the sons of God. All right. And it was passed down orally. Okay. And we know that because there are various accounts in the scriptures of certain ordinances that are in our laws, statutes, and commandments that men of old performed prior to Moses coming on the scene. Okay. Even going far back as to Cain and Abel, when they came up to bring an offering onto the Lord doesn't just take any offering. When you read in Leviticus and Exodus, there's a specific way in which you have to offer to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So if they came to make an offering to the Lord, there was a certain way they had to perform that ritual, and that would mean that they had to have knowledge of how to do it. Okay. Now, this is the book of Romans, chapter 5, verse 12. It says, wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world. And that right there is an indicator in itself. Because what is sin? According to 1 John 3 and 4, sin is the transgression of the law. And when you transgress the law, that means you break the law, you go off. So who is this one man that as by him sin entered into the world, and death by sin? This man was Adam. So if by Adam sin entered into the world, that would have meant that what? Adam sinned. But you can't sin without the law. Hence, verse 13, which I'm going to come back to 12, but verse 13, um, it says, "For until the law, the for until the law, sin, for until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed where there is no law." See, so how could sin have entered in by Adam if there was no law? Because sinning is an action, okay, and that action is breaking the law of the Heavenly Father. All right. It says so. It says, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned through Adam. So Adam, being Yahushua, led that fall by him transgressing, and therefore all of us going off. And he came back again as Yahushua to do what? To reconcile and to bring us back to for the sons of God to rise again, because we fell starting with Yahushua, and we are rising starting with Yahushua. So I'm going to jump down to verse 17. And it says, to really drive home the point, for if by one man's offense death reigned by one, much more they which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one, Yahushua HaMashiach. So that one man's offense, that one man was the same man that through him the gift of righteousness shall reign in life. Okay, and that it's the same man, and that's Yahushua. Verse 18. Therefore, as by the offense of one, judgment came upon all men to condemnation. And who was that one? Yahushua. Even so, by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. And the scriptures tell you that what faith is a gift of God. So we received, because Yahushua is the author and finisher of our faith. See, so by his offense, judgment came onto us, but by his sacrifice, righteousness has come onto us. Verse 19, for as by one man's disobedience, many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. And that's why I made the statement that Yahushua led the fall of the sons of God, and the same Yahushua is leading the rise of the sons of God. It starts with Yahushua, it ends with Yahushua. That's why he is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. So now let's get into the meat of the lesson. So I'm going to start off here in the Book of Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter, at the 22nd verse, and let's deal with the sons of God, because at the time of creation, when you go into the Book of Genesis, you read about the powers, right? The Elohim, creating the different things according to the blueprint they were given by the Most High. And that's why they would say they saw, and the powers saw that it was good to Wab, right? It was good according to what? According to the standard of the Most High. And so as you read later on, it tells you from the 20th verse on down in Genesis, the first chapter, about let the waters bring forth abundantly the creature that hath life. And man was a part of that. So we know that prior to the verse that says that the power said, let us make man in our image, man was already on earth. Man was already alive. Okay. And of all men, there was a differentiation. There was a separation from all men and the sons of God, because you have the three classifications of men. You have the sons of God, you have the sons of men, and you have the sons of the wicked. The sons of the wicked are the ones that later on came to be known as Edomites. The sons of men are the other heathen nations, and the sons of God later on came to be known as Israelites. Okay, so Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 23, it says, for God created man to be immortal. This is dealing with the Israelite man. And that is why at the end, okay, at the end, when we come back, when the sons of God rise again, we will go back to being what? Immortal, because that is our first estate. That is how we were created to be immortal. Hence, sons of God. Gods are immortal. So if you are a son of a God, then you are a God. That makes you immortal. It says, for God created man to be immortal and made him an image of his own eternity. His own eternity. Now, in God creating man to be immortal, there was a way the Lord gave us for us to keep that immortality. There was a certain way, a certain path we had to follow so we could stay away from that kryptonite and stay closer to the sun, right? I'm giving that Superman reference. And when we deviated, and that's why we read in Romans, the 5th chapter, when we deviated from that, that's when we lost that immortality. And that's when we fell. But let's deal with one thing at a time. So man was made to be immortal. And what, in essence, what is it that allows us to be in that state of immortality? Because right now we are still the sons of God, but there's going to be a difference between the sons of God right now and the sons of God in the kingdom. And what's going to be that difference? Well, the sons of God right now cannot keep the ordinances and the laws and the statutes and commandments perfectly. And we know the scriptures say that the wages of sin is death. So the sons of God now are mortal because we are not perfect, and we are not perfect because we break the laws of the Lord. And in the kingdom, we are going to be immortal, and we're going to be made perfect because we're going to be able to keep those laws, statutes, and commandments perfectly. And that's going to, and the way we're going to get to that point is through Yahawashi. So let's get the book of Baruch, the 4th chapter. This is Baruch chapter 4, verse 1. So we read that man was made to be immortal. Okay. Baruch 4 and 1, it says, this is the book of the commandments of God, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Okay. So when you go to the book of Genesis and you read that the Lord said, in the day when you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge and evil, ye shall surely die. And here in Baruch 4 and 1, we're reading that those that leave the commandments of the Lord shall die, but those that keep it shall come to life. So in essence, what happened when Adam and Eve partook of the fruit, right? When they ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, they left the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Hence, we lost immortality and death was appointed in us. Okay? Shalom, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi Brakatham. This is Stay in the Spirit 144, Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 15. For righteousness is, there you go. For righteousness is immortal. And what is the standard of righteousness? The ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Verse 2, it says, turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it. Take hold of what? The commandments of the Lord, the law, statutes, and commandments, the ordinance, the way in which we have been commanded to walk. And whilst we kept it, we were immortal. We were good. But when we left it, death, okay, death reigned over us. So it says, walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. So when we were in the garden, we were walking in the presence of it. And that's why we were different than everybody else, than these other nations. And we're going to get that as well. Okay, when you go to the book of Ezekiel, which, like I said, we'll get that as well. We were illuminated. Okay, we were different. We weren't like these other nations. But what separated us? When you read in Genesis, it tells you that what? And the Lord God took man, the man that he had formed from the dust, okay, and breathed into him the breath. That when you go into it, the breath, according to Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, it says that wisdom is the breath of God. All right. And so when the Lord breathed into us and man became a living soul, does that mean that that man was dead? He was literally a dead body? No. Because the 1st chapter says, let the waters bring forth the creature that have what? Life. So the man was already living. So what does it mean that he became living, or he became a living soul? It means that he according to Proverbs 21:16, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So in essence, what does that mean? The man that remains in the way of understanding will not be in the congregation of the dead. He will be alive. He will be living. Okay. So that breath was ultimately the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's how we were in the image. We were made in the image, in the ways, okay, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. The same way this beast, okay, is implementing the image of the first beast. He's bringing back those same ways. Well, we were made in the image of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay. Verse 3 says, give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. O Israel, happy are we, for things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us. So let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomia, the 4th chapter. This is Deuteronomy chapter 4, and we're going to start at the first verse. It says, now therefore hearken, O Israel. Now this is during the time of Moses. However, what Moses is saying concerning the ordinances or the laws of the Lord, okay, were still prevalent, okay, predating Moses' time. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read the first verse and jump down. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live, and go in and possess the land which the Lord Yahweh, power of your fathers, giveth you. And like you said, like it said, that ye may live. So now jump down to verse 5. It says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh my power commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. And as we read in Baruch 4, it says what? That we may be illuminated. Okay, one that is wise, that has great wisdom and understanding, is also considered enlightened or illuminated. So what illuminated us? The laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And we had that go all the way going back to the time of Adam. So in that time, we still had this effect on the nations, where they looked at us and knew that we were different. Verse 7, for what nation is there so great, who hath the Most High so nigh unto them, as Yahweh our power is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? You see, and this was the same effect we had when we were known as the sons of God, which is why when you go to Ezekiel 31 verse 8, it says now Ezekiel 31 and 8 and 9 are referring to Adam, all right, back in the Garden of Eden. So it says the cedars in the garden of God could not hide him. And when it mentions the cedars or the trees, this is metaphorical for the other nations, because at times people are referred to as trees, okay, or branches, when the scriptures are speaking metaphorically. So Ezekiel 31 and 8, the cedars of the garden could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs. Now, why couldn't they hide him? Well, why did he want to hide? When you go back and read the book of Genesis, after Adam and Eve had partaken, when it says they ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, it does not mean that they ate an apple. It means that they ate with their mind. They exposed their mind and they exposed their mind to the ways of the left hand. Okay, meaning because the right hand was the ordinances, the law, statutes, and commandments, and the left hand were wicked practices. Okay, different philosophies, and all manner of things that are on the left hand. That's why it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So once they were exposed to that, and they realized that they were naked, and they realized that they had gone off from the way they were, because if you let's put it like this. If you were raised in a house where there was no light at all, and all you knew was darkness, it isn't until you step outside and see light that you know that you were in darkness. And if you were raised in an area where all there was light, it was always daytime, there was no night, there was no darkness, it isn't until you go to a place where you're exposed to darkness that you realize that you were in the light. So now you know the difference between the two, because you've been exposed to both of them. So once they were exposed to the left hand and the right hand, they knew that they had gone off, and that's why he tried to hide. Okay, but as we're reading in Ezekiel 31:8, it says the cedars in the garden of the Most High could not hide him. We couldn't hide amongst these other nations because we were far too different. We stood out. Why is that? Like we just read in Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, and Baruch, the 4th chapter. And not only was it in knowledge or in the ways in which we moved, but also in appearance. So it says the fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. Verse 9, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees, now here's the key part, so that all the trees of Eden, which are the other nations that were in the garden of God, because Eden is the earth, Aidan. The garden was eastward in Eden. So you may hear the Garden of Eden, and people think that the garden was Eden. No, Eden is the planet, the earth, and the garden was placed eastward in Eden. So the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God. Oh, Salakia, verse 9. I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden, meaning all these other nations that were on the planet, that were in the garden of God, envied him. That's the key word. They what? They envied him. Why did they envy us? Because we were different. Because like we read in Deuteronomy 4, they would say, what nation hath the Most High so nigh unto them as this great people? And what came about through their envy? Let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon. Solomon, 2nd chapter. And we read the 23rd verse, which said that for God created man to be immortal and made him an image of his own eternity. And by doing so, he gave us those ways that we had to follow. But what happened? Verse 24. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. So Ezekiel 31:9 says, because we were so different, that what? The other nations, they envied us. And amongst the other nations, you had the devil, the deceiver, which were the sons of the wicked. All right, at that time, that's what they were known as. So that man, the serpent, that serpent was a man of the sons of the wicked that came there. And he was a deceiver, a devil. And he was one of those that also envied us. And what came about of his envy, he used out of his envy, he deceived us. And through deceiving us, we went off. And what was the penalty of going off? Death. So through the envy of this devil and him coming in and him deceiving us and us going off, death came into our world. Okay. And and eventually we fell. Okay, we fell because we broke. We left. I got to open another tab because I'm gonna keep making reference back and forth. Okay, let's go back to Baruch. Let's read again what it said there in Baruch 4, that such as leave it shall what? Shall die. So what happened when the envious devil came and deceived us? We left. Okay, we left it. When we partook, because that's why the scriptures say you cannot what? You cannot serve two masters, for you will either love the one and hate the other. If you're doing righteousness, you're not doing wickedness. If you're doing wickedness, you're not doing righteousness. You may have knowledge of both, but you can only do one at a time. So when we went and partook of the left hand side, we left the right hand side. And as we read in Baruch 4:1, such as leave it shall what? Shall die. And that's why the Lord said, in the day that you take it, that ye shall surely die. So when you read, as you read in the genealogy, okay, of Adam, you see none of us were able to live to 1,000 years, because that day represented 1,000 years. When you go to the book of Second Peter 3:8, it says that I will not have you be ignorant of this thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years with us. Okay, so a day, all right, the Lord's day or a day is 1,000 years to us, and that's why even the oldest man was Methuselah, which lived 969 years. Okay, but not to 1,000. So let's see, what else do I have? Now let's go to the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. So after we had transgressed, what were the trees that were in the garden? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. And after we had transgressed, the commandment was, let us now we gotta take them out, lest they put forth their hand to the tree of life as well, and eat it and become immortal. Okay, so we weren't allowed back to get that tree of life, to get back to the ways of complete righteousness and have immortality. Right now, we are partaking of the tree of life, but I'm gonna go in succession of the precepts I have here. All right, and we'll get to that point. So now you have Adam, you have Eve, and they weren't the only people. As we know, they were not the only people on the planet at the time. And they had Cain and they had Abel. So now we know Cain ends up slaying Abel, the first murder, okay, because he was the first murderer, that demon, and he gets cursed with leprosy. He flees to the land of Nod and go gets him a wife, and then he has his he starts having his descendants. Okay, he starts having Enoch. He builds a city. He builds a city called Enoch after Enoch, but that was the Enoch on the left hand side, the Enoch of Cain's descendants. Okay, Enoch, Irad, I believe what's that? Mehujael, Methusael, and Lamech. Okay, and then his sons, Jubal, all right, Tubal, Cain. And when you read the energy that line was in, they were a bunch of murderers. Okay, you had Lamech singing, basically telling his wives, "I've wounded a man, I've slain a man to my wounding," something to that effect, saying that if Cain would be avenged sevenfold, surely Lamech 70 and sevenfold. But nevertheless, as now Abel dies, the Lord recompenses Adam and Eve with Seth. You have Seth and his line. You go Seth. You have Enos. You got what's that? Canaan. Okay. Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. But through that whole line, you don't have any of us that lived to 1,000 years. And as we kept going lower and lower and lower and lower, more and more into the future, our lifespan kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The age in which we lived to kept getting less and less and less and less and less. So from the 900s to the 700s and all the way, and now, pretty much. Some Jakes don't even live past 30. Okay. So Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. It says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men. This is not angels, fallen angels, the Nephilim, wings, demons. No, this is not fallen angels sleeping with women and having half man and all. The sons of God today are known as the Israelites. Okay, the line of Adam through Seth. They saw the daughters of men, the women of the other nations, that they were fair. They look good. You look good to me. I like you and I want you. Right? It says, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So they started marrying them. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So the Lord cut our lifespan. Verse 4. Now it says there were giants in the earth in those days. The problem with this here is because when you go into it, which we're going to go into the Hebrew, if you read this plain out in the English, you will be misled. Because when it says there were giants in the earth in those days, it does not mean that there were actual big giants, huge, tall, Goliath. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. As a matter of fact, the word there, when you go into the Hebrew, it says Napayal, and it says giants, the Nephilim. But really what's supposed to be there is the root word of Napayal, which is Nepal, which is to fall. Okay? To fall, to lie, to fall short. Okay? So with that understanding, when you read in Genesis 6 and 4, what they should have wrote was the fallen ones, or the sons of God that fell from their glorious estate. Okay? Those, when it says they were giants in the earth in those days, really the essence of this verse should be that there were the sons of God that fell, okay, that fell from their that glorious estate we were first in those days, because at this time we had fallen from, and that's what Jude, the apostle Jude, makes reference of that when he mentions the angels which kept not their first estate. And this is the journey of the sons of God. This is how we went from that high, illuminated, our branches and boughs being different than these other nations that they couldn't hide us, to now where we are today. This is the journey of our fall. It says, and also after that, when the sons of God came in onto the daughters of men. So you had Israelites that were sleeping with the women of the other nations. They bare children to them, and the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Yeah, because those children would be Israelites as well, or sons of God as well, because the man carries the seed. All right, the man carries the seed. But the point that I wanted to make in here with Genesis 6 and 4, going into that fall, the giants being the fallen sons of God. Okay, so we fell from that first estate, and that's why when you go to the book of Psalms, chapter 82, verse 6, it says, I have said, ye are gods, and we are gods, and we were in the fullness of that godlike estate, and all of you are the children of the Most High. Verse 7, but ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes. And what? Fall, Nepal, fall like one of the princes. And that fall led us down all the way through, and in process of time, the sons of God, right, the Hebrews, came about to be called the children of Israel, because that line of Noah continued through Shem. Okay, and all the way on down, our Faxad, and all the way down, super fast forward down the line to Eber, okay, to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. And at that point of Jacob is when our name okay, got because the Jacob's name got changed from Jacob or Yaquab to Israel, Yasharallah, which is another way of saying the son of God. Because Yasharallah is he prince of power, or he prince of the power. A prince of the power or a prince of God is a son of God. And hence we became known as the children of the man named Israel. So when you hear children of Israel, you can also say children of Jacob or sons of Jacob. So we are the children of the man named Israel. Hence we are Israelites. The suffix "ite" means a people of or belonging to. Okay, so we are Israelites, the people of Israel, the children of Israel. And even from then, the fall continued from Egypt, okay, to the land of Canaan, to then the northern tribe getting taken by the Assyrians and then coming to the Americas. And then over in process of time for them, they stopped being known as the 10 tribes to now Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans. That's how low the fall brought us. Meanwhile, you had the southern kingdom, which with remnants of the northern kingdom went into Babylon, got let out back to Israel when the Persians came into power, got taken back again, got subjected by the Greeks, okay, then the Romans, to the point where they completely destroyed our temple, and then we had to flee and scatter. The bulk of us went into Africa, and then we were taken from there and brought here, and now we're known as Black, Haitian, West Indian, Trinidadian, okay, Jamaican. That's how low the fall brought us. So where are the sons of God today? They're here. They're just not known as the sons of God. They're not even, well, now we're coming back to our nationality and who we are. But for the longest, we weren't even known as Israelites. That's why the scriptures refer to us as the hidden ones, because our true nationality was hidden for so long. But now that cry is being made after that falling away. That cry is being made pursuant to Matthew 25. And the spirit of life is entering into us. And the valley of the dry bones is no longer dry. The bones have come together. The sinews have grown. And we have been given that breath. And we're standing upon our feet. And the sons of God are what? Are rising again. Okay, so Kwam Yasharallah is the sons of God that fell from their first estate, now being risen back up. And that's why there's such a heavy vibration centering around the Israelites. And that's why they want to call us Black Hebrew Israelites and stuff, because guess what? That envy is come right back into the earth again. Like we read in Ezekiel 30:31, that they envied us. Why? Because that difference between us and the heathen is coming back. And along with it is coming what? That envy. And that's why they're trying to shut us down. They're demonizing us. They're trying to say all manner of things against us, because that envy. But this time, they know that they cannot deceive us again. And that's why in Revelation 12, it says the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God. So from here, let's get Jude chapter 1, because I quoted this earlier, verse 6. So this is the book of Jude. I could close out this and this. The book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 6. It says, and the angels which kept not their first estate. How do we not keep our first estate? By leaving it, as we just went through, okay, through the various precepts. It says, but left their own habitation. He hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness onto the judgment of the great day. So what are those chains of everlasting, those everlasting chains under darkness? That is these mortal fleshly bodies, and they're dark because they're corrupt. That's why Paul says, for this corruption must become incorrupt. This mortal must become immortal. And that's why he also made the statement that it is not I that sin, but sin that dwells in me, because these are the chains that have been slapped on us. And we are reserved in these chains until the judgment of the great day, because the judgment of the great day, when the Lord comes back, is when some are going to be loosed immediately from these chains and given new bodies, and some are going to be destroyed in these chains, and they're going to have to come back in the kingdom. So now I had mentioned earlier, let's go to Revelation 2:7. I had mentioned earlier about the tree of life. Okay. And this is why when you read in the book of Revelation, the 5th chapter, the apostle John wept when he saw that there was no man to loose the seals. He wept because if there was no man to loose the seals, then there was no way back for us to get back to us being the sons of God. Okay? Because our first estate was immortality. And we are now on our way back there. This is Revelation chapter 2, verse 7. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. Now, this shows you that the tree of life is not a physical tree, because that first off, when the Lord brought the flood upon the world, if the tree of life was a physical tree over there in the Garden of Eden, it would have been destroyed when the flood came. Okay? But if the tree of life, if the Lord is speaking about it in the book of Revelation, that he that overcometh will he give of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God, then you got to say, wait, hold on, what kind of tree is this? This tree been standing firm since the beginning all the way up until now. Okay? But ultimately, what does that mean? Because this truth, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is that life, that tree of life, the knowledge. But when you partake of the tree of life, that's not an instant thing. The same way when we partook of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, it wasn't just an instant thing. It's a way, it's a practice. So those that overcome, those that remain, all right, and fully eat of that tree, okay, or fully remain in this truth, that are of the elect, when Yahushua comes, we are going to completely eat of that tree, meaning that we're going to be made immortal, because that is what the tree of life does. It gives you that immortality. Next precept is the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 7. It says, he that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. You see? So if he will be our God and we will be his son, what does that mean? We will go back to having our position, okay, in the fullness of what? The sons of God. Okay? The sons of God. Yashar Allah. The Israel of God. Okay? And so lastly, I have here the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12. And it says here, him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my power, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon, and the temple of the Most High cannot have anything defiled in it. And if you are not defiled, that means you're perfect. So in order for us to be made pillars in the temple of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, we are going to need to be made perfect. And right now we are in the journey of perfecting the mind, and Lord willing, upon Yahushai's return, our bodies will be perfected, or he will give us those perfect bodies to have that perfect union, perfection of mind, perfection of body, perfection of spirit. Okay? And that's how you have your perfect being. It says, I will make a pillar in the temple of my power, and he shall no more go out. And I will write upon him the name of my power, and the name of the city of my power, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my power. And this the Apostle John saw in the book of Revelation, the 21st chapter, in the first verse. All right, the first few verses, he saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down. That represented the elect, all right, in the chariots. It says, and I will write upon him my new name. It doesn't mean that the Yahushua is going to have a completely different name. No, the name endures forever. When you go into the word new, it means kainos, which means refreshed, because the name, the true names of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai is going to be made fresh, all right, again in the earth. It's going to be made known. The renown, the power, the respect that comes with that name is going to be reestablished in the fullness in the earth again. All right. So with that, I'm going to end it here. I believe I hit all the precepts and made the point. And so, Lord willing, that was edifying unto the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.